Mr. Professional Monkey, how are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How you doing, buddy?
Good. Thank you so much for your time. You're like the James Brown of YouTube. You're the hardest working man on YouTube. You're everywhere.
Yeah, I guess it's the luxury of working my real job from home and working insane hours. Like they start really early in the morning and they go really late at night. So I'll have a couple hours of dead space in the middle of the day. So I'm like, I'll do a video if you think of a topic, whatever. So I think people think like, do you ever leave the house? I'm like, no, I really don't. I very rarely leave the house except for on the weekends.
You only have that room in the garage, right?
That's really pretty much it. Yeah. I mean, it's since this whole, little thing happened out there in the world, my daughter goes to school out in the family room. My wife works in the other bedroom, the other end of the house is, and then I have this room, and that's just, we're like a commune or something here.
That's the worst part. I started working from home like a month before the pandemic. And then I was like, all these people that are like, they can't work. So they're getting paid, but they're sort of working like 3 hours a week. I'm like, how do I not commute to work? I'm like 10 feet from my office.
Yeah.
Oh, the cat was really sick today. I couldn't make it in. It sucks.
Yeah.
So for those that don't follow your channel, could you just give us the quick elevator pitch?
Oh God, that would imply there's some sort of professionalism or any sort of idea behind it.
Well, you are the professional monkey.
Well, that came from an alleyway in Mexico, but that's a story for later. But
is that a story we're recording or not?
Yeah, you can record that one. It's fine. There was no donkey show or anything. It was just, So what happened was that in 2020, I guess it was, on a whim, I'm a Sturgis fanatic. If you watch the channel, You do know that. I've been going since I was very little, not very little, I was 13. And I've gone many, many times since then, both as a kid on the back of my dad's bike and now as an adult. And I just love Sturgis. It's my mecca. And so my wife says, you should do a Sturgis series on YouTube. This is during the pandemic. You can't do anything else. I'm losing my mind.
Sure.
She's like, you should go do a video about Sturgis. So I wrote an outline, the one organized thing I've done in my life. And I brought her the outline and she goes, this is going to take 6.5 hours to record. Why don't you do an episode per topic? Where to eat, where to grab a drink, where to stay, concerts. I'm like, okay. So I did each of those episodes and they got watched quite a bit. And then I did one called What to Not Do in Sturgis, how to screw up your Sturgis, because I've had bad stuff happen there
too.
And that one, well, when the channel was new, it got like 5,000 views. And I was like, holy crap, that's massive. So I just started doing install videos here and there and decided that because I don't have the ability or whatnot, I would just film it when I screwed up and not edit things out. And I would laugh at myself because that's who I am when I did something wrong. And people really liked it. And there were tons of comments and it was a good conversation. I'm like, oh my God, we're building sort of a community here of people that know each other and reply to each other. And it was just a lot of fun. So that's where it started. And I think I hit 1,000 subscribers on February the 2nd of 21. And I have just under 29,000 July 20th today.
So that's a little progress.
It's yeah. I don't know. I'm not a YouTube expert, but there's people who say like that's really crazy growth. So
that is, but it's
fun.
But I think that the thing that's really interesting about your channel, and I'm dating myself, I suppose, but I feel like it has that MTV Real World Confessional feel to it. Like, I feel like it's just you. Like, if I'm watching you in my office, I feel like it's just you and I having a conversation. And I really like that. I think that's unique.
It's fun. I like doing the videos. I like commenting. I read every single comment and respond to most. And it's a blast. I mean, and I take the negatives if they're a decent thought. If it's not just someone being an ass, but if there's somebody who just has some real feedback, I'll go, thanks. And some people have actually saved me. Like, you did this wrong. That I saw you do this wrong. I'm like, oh, cool. Let me go figure that out. I just did a video on greasing the hubs on my RV. I leave for Sturgis the end of July and it's 5,000 miles round trip and I have a 36-foot toy hauler. So I northbound and down hard. Like, I always jokingly say, for those who say I'm not a real man because I don't ride to Sturgis, realize that my drive to Sturgis is 2.5 iron butts in a row.
Yes.
Like straight 2.5 iron butts is what it would take to get to Sturgis, because I can't take enough time off to make it take 17 days. So anyway, so I went out and I did a video where I put new tires in the rig and I put fresh grease in the bearings. And a guy said, you did that wrong. You could blow out your rear seals. You didn't, obviously, it's okay. But the way you did that, and I'm like, holy crap, thank you. You know, like I take the feedback, you know, but that's the whole point, to have a conversation.
Well, and that's the thing that I think's interesting. And we were talking about this earlier. It's right. There's the good and the bad of YouTube, right? There's the genuine building a community where, and some of the best videos that I've had were the engagements, not the video itself was, you know what I mean? There's no, I didn't do anything special, but the engagements of people talking to me and, you know, responding, that to me meant more than anything than the any sort of, well, at that time I wasn't even monetized. So it was more than the gain. That to me was the monetization, if you will. You know, it was the having the interaction where you can reach out to people and just be like, yo, you know, what you up to?
It's cool. I've learned a lot. People say they've learned a lot. I've gotten some crazy emails, crazy to me anywhere, where they said, you know, you're really lucky that you grew up on the back of your dad's Harley, and that when you were younger, he taught you to wrench on the bike. Not very well, because I'm an idiot, but you know, to do the basics, to maintain your own bike, to not be afraid to go at it with a wrench and a screwdriver and do your own upgrades and stuff like that. Because they say, because I was raised by a single mom, don't have a dad, and I don't know what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And so I watched this video on such and such, and they, like, one guy said, I know how to take my saddlebags off my Road King now. And I'm like, what? Like that, like he didn't know how to take the saddlebags off. He was afraid to mess with the thumb bolts in there. And I'm like, wow. I'm like, anytime you have a question, man, like I may not know the answer, but I'll let you know what I do know. And you realize that people are having a good time and they're laughing, but there are some young dudes out there that are like learning from your videos and my videos and other channels that we love videos and stuff. You're like, that's pretty sad that you're learning from me, but anything I can help you with, let's do it, you know?
Well, you had made a comment about, I forget what video it was, but about talking to the older guy on the knucklehead, and, you know, you have an Ultra and it's like you have the cappuccino machine and all that nonsense, but we can learn so much from each other.
Yeah.
And there's this big, I noticed it. Like I said, I've only had my Harley 2.5 years. I always had metric bikes before that. And the minute I bought that, I was getting it's because you're a Harley guy. Really? Because like 6 weeks ago, I wasn't.
We weren't born Harley guys. No one our age bracket was born a Harley guy. You know, we all started somewhere.
It's just, it's really funny how that culture gets to be, I don't know. And it's weird. Like you said, it's an inclusive culture, but it's also an alienating culture too, because it's like anything. We can argue hand grips for 4 hours, and you know, it's like, I don't know who has 4 hours. It's a grip.
We're our own worst enemy. We really are. Like, you know, I did a video on the older brothers and the young guys coming in, and no one's innocent here. Like I've said, like we need more young dudes talking to the graybeards and learning about bikes and culture and protocol and this, that, and the other. But yet some of the old dudes are rude to the young guys. So they're not going to talk to you. So it's like, we got to figure this out. Like we got to talk to each other or this culture is going to die, you know?
Well, and that's what I thought was really good when you were just doing the MC stuff. I mean, I haven't been around a lot of MC people, but I have been around some, especially 1%ers. And I thought it was really interesting because the people that I've met, and it's been a very limited amount, but they were just bikers. You know what I mean? Yeah. But you said there's a protocol and there's respect, but there's respect with being an adult. You know, there's respect to people in general. You know,
it's the same thing, just turned up to 11.
Yeah.
That's all it is. You know, like, and again, growing up around my dad and being a Vietnam vet and hanging out with his kind of folks, which he was not a 1%er. He was not a member of an MC. He was, you know, but he was very, very tight with all those guys. And we were around them constantly, and seeing someone make a mistake, this, that, and the other, growing up in it, and then joining my own organization 20 years ago, not my own. I know. 20 years ago, I've seen a lot of people make mistakes, and it's just for me. And I've actually had that role in the organization of being the liaison with clubs and helping people learn how to communicate properly and not properly and don't make mistakes. And this is not the end of the world. People get really offended at those MC videos sometimes. And it's the only people who get offended are people who are non-MC, people who are actually part of clubs or around clubs said, good stuff. This is fun to watch, interesting, et cetera, et cetera. People who for some reason hate motorcycle clubs are just truly offended at the idea that you're supposed to take your sunglasses off before you go up. Well, you shouldn't go up to somebody. But anyway, before you talk to somebody from a club, you're supposed to take your sunglasses off. They're totally offended at that. And why?
It's now, when they were typing, were they wearing their Sons of Anarchy shirt?
Absolutely. Actually, no, I think that they probably were beat up a lot as a kid, and that's the problem. I don't know. Like that seems to be the issue.
Mom got me this computer.
Yeah, exactly. Like they're, I don't understand it. I don't understand why people get bent out of shape about it. But when I do those, it's for fun. It's for people who know nothing and enjoy learning a little bit about it. And it's informative. Like, what is a no-fly zone? Mm-hmm. I had no idea that a lot of people have no idea what a no-fly is.
I didn't until I saw your video.
They had no idea what an out bad is, like that kind of stuff. But, and also that one was fun because it started a whole bunch of conversation about, I knew a guy once, like people in the comments section that said, I knew a guy once who was out bad, who tried to join every club in town. But because we have that, we're all able to communicate and go, insert name here is a POS. You don't want him. So,
I think it's interesting. I think it was funny too that you've done a couple of videos where you're like, if you want to watch an install video, watch somebody else's.
I do.
I thought that was really funny because it's genuine.
I don't know how to do that. I will do the same install that they did, but I don't know how to create an install video.
Sure.
I can't do that. I'm not, I think that if you know how to turn a wrench, you can watch my video and figure it out, but you need to already be able to turn a wrench.
Yeah.
But I watch install videos. I have to tackle the forks on that chopper pretty soon. And I've never done forks before. So I'm watching, was a law-abiding biker, I think, has a really good forks video. And I'm watching his on how to take the forks apart. I do it too. Like, I've done everything else, but never done forks.
And I think that it's, you could spend 8 hours filming a 4 hour, not even a 4 hour, 6 minute install.
Putting on a new seat for something that somebody else has already done a better job. So why do it?
Yeah.
That's the way I look at it,
Yeah. Because everybody sort of gets in that same lane of, doing the same thing for sure. Mm-hmm. So what do you ride?
I ride the Ultra.
Absolutely.
99.9% of the time. So I have a 2021 Ultra Limited. My wife has a 2019 CVO Road Glide. That was my bike. She used to have an 18 Heritage that she bought new. That was her first bike. And then when I got the Ultra, she took over the CVO. Okay. And then I have a 1990 Sportster that is no longer a Sportster. It is a Paco chopper that now has that lower end of the 90 Sportster, but the upper end is a Buell. So it's what I call it, a basket case. It's assembled, but it's a basket case. It won't start. It's electrical problems. I need to tear the whole thing down and rebuild it, but that's why I bought it, was to do that. And then I have a 2014 Heritage that just sits there. Honestly, it never goes anywhere.
That's fair. You've done something I thought was interesting with the Ultras. You're sort of tearing it down and making it your own, which I think is really cool.
It's been a lot of fun because I don't like the look of an Ultra. I don't like a geezer glide, but I like the wet head motor and I like a tour pack. So in 2017, I bought a Road Glide Ultra, and that was the bike that me and the missus rode together.
Okay.
And I left the giant Ultra geezer seat and everything on it. And we did a lot of, we did 15,000 miles the year that I rode that one primarily. And it was all organization stuff. And then up at Sturgis and Leesburg and stuff like that. And then, when she started riding is when I got rid of it and got my CVO. And then I was like, man, that tour pack was useful. And man, the CVO rides really rough. It's slammed, it's lowered, it rides more stiff. Like when she wanted to get a bagger, she wanted to get rid of the Heritage, a dresser. I made a mistake. I supposed to say a dresser. Someone's going to say drink. When she decided she wanted to get a dresser, I said, well, just take the CVO and I'll go back to a geezer glide. But then as soon as I bought the geezer glide, I'm like, I sure would like a stretch rear end. I mean, like my brain never quits as far as like what I can change on something. And so I made some changes. I made the tour pack quick release. Advanblack offered me their stretched rear end. And I was like, yeah, let's do that. And that just went down the rabbit hole. Once we did that, I was like, what about this and what about that? And now the CEO and I are pals. Like we talk all the time about products and new products and maybe stuff we could do. And so my whole bike is advanblacked out now with parts they've given me, and I'm a fan. I'm a huge fan.
I'm just gonna say it. I'm jealous of your rear end.
Yeah, right. You like my rear end.
I like your rear end.
I have a nice awkward, big rear end. Matter of fact, the video that I did on that, I said I Kardashianed my bike.
We affectionately refer to our bike as Big Fat Fanny because from the back it's just it's she's a big girl. But you
stretch through her end, it's really going to be a big fat fanny. Like, yeah.
I'll tell you what, but you get spoiled with that tour pack because you're like, oh, I can just throw both my helmets in here, a couple cameras, Yeah.
I did a video today about changing out the hardware because I wasn't happy with its stability, and I changed the pack. I bought the hardware off of Amazon, the rack and the dock, which was a huge mistake. Huge mistake. I bought the best stuff on Amazon because it was cheaper than Harley stuff, and I just didn't know where else to get it. And you could move that sucker a quarter inch at any given moment. That's what I was afraid of. I'm like, I'm not happy. And not to beat the name to death, but I didn't know advanblack makes that stuff. So they gave me their rack and dock. And it's actually not a problem. It's the other end. You have to actually force it on and down and like latch it. So it's like, it's hard to get on and off, but that's kind of what you want, right? I mean, on your 50-pound tour pack with a $700 helmet and a whatnot in the back of it, you don't want that sucker coming off.
It's funny you say that because my chrome one took a long time to break in, but then I just bought a black one to put on the razor pack. So I have both advanblack brackets on both tour packs. The black one dropped right in. So I don't know if it's because it's made to such a tight tolerance. It needs to work. It's because that's what I was thinking. I'm like, I couldn't get it on the first time.
It's you really have to force it, but I like that. I want that sucker to be on there. Like I don't want that tour pack coming off. And so I did that today, actually, and did a video on it. And I'm like so much happier. That was actually always in the back of my mind that I'm rolling on the highway and my tour pack's going to fall off the back of my bike. And now it's $2,000 between everything that was in the tour pack and the and
the damage you caused behind you.
And the damage you caused and hitting your brother who's riding behind you. And, that's always in the back of my mind. And now I'm not worried about it. So I'm excited.
My wife said that when we bought the bracket, she's like, don't buy one off of Amazon because I'm on the back. I was like,
not only that, right?
All right. That's fair. I mean, it's
what's that t-shirt? Don't mind it. Yeah. You can read this. You don't want that. You don't want that to happen.
I'm like $300 in parts. Our deductible is $150 for the ER. I'm still kind of ahead on this.
It's a wash, really, hon. Sorry,
She just found out that the tour pack's adjustable as far as front and back. She's like, "Oh, I can get more room." I'm like, "See, now you're spoiled. Now you got like two tour packs."
It's only like an inch. You can buy the kits that make them go back like 4 inches, which makes the whole thing look ridiculous. And if you have an ultra. And have the hard mount, where your license plate is up under the tour pack. Mm-hmm. If you move the tour pack all the way back on those sliders, you can actually not pay tolls.
Yeah.
Because they can't see the plate.
It's funny, even with the standard mount, I've had that issue where it doesn't pick up. Yeah. And then I bought the relocator kit. I was like, see, that's going to cost me more money than I spent. That's going to, it's going to cost me all this toll money. So you went with the liquid cooled heads. Now, so what was your reasoning behind that? Just because you're doing more touring miles? Because see, that's where in my head, I want a Road Glide Special because I love the look. Mm-hmm. But I know the lower fairings, you get spoiled. I don't have to tell you that. Like it's So
it was lower fairings because we ride in really bad storms down here. I did a short video. It was kind of funny because that's just normal riding down here as you get caught in a squall or whatever. And you're just like, I'm going to either drown or get blown off the highway, one of the two. Mm-hmm. So you really want to have lowers if it's an option. And just the idea that a wet head has a longer life.
Okay.
It's the top end of the motor stays cooler. If you're also doing that sort of rally parade duty kind of stuff, when you're slow and it's hot, the fans kick in, pull heat out of the motor, and it's just having a better temperature control, So, and I was like, well, if I buy a Street Glide, I knew that I was going to want a tour pack. I knew I was going to want lowers. I'm like, well, just buy the Ultra and and I also thought it'd be more interesting to buy an Ultra and strip it than to buy a Street Glide and add to it. To me, that was more interesting. But
well, no, and I don't know why it is. Maybe it's because it has the passing lamps, but I didn't think I'd like the bike with the rear end naked, but with the lowers. I thought that would be a weird look, but I grew to love it the second it came off. The second the tour pack came off, I'm like, I love this. This is all right.
Stretch the rear end, and it makes sense. Like, it looks better with lowers and a stretched rear.
You're just trying to spend my money. Stop.
I'm sorry, but it looks cool. I like it a lot.
All right, I'm gonna tell my wife we need to work on my rear end. Squats.
We got to stretch it out. We got to stretch that rear end out.
I need a bigger booty. That's funny. So
I will say the funny thing about the quick release thing, though, I put the quick release on the tour pack. I took it off and I was like, wow, that looks so cool. But then I always need it. So I put it back on and the tour pack never comes off the bike now. All that effort and it never comes off.
I was surprised at how light that bike felt without that on. Like it's, for me at least, it felt completely different. Mm-hmm. It doesn't have all that top end weight. Of course, it's probably because I have it packed to the gills, but
that might be it.
I mean, it could be. With all the rain gear that I never
100
use.
pounds up there, yeah, that's going to mess with your handling a little bit.
We did a 13-day trip on it, and I wasn't in my head compensating for taking all the gear off the bike, the rick rack and all that. So then we're out riding, and I'm like, how come my spine hurts? Like when we hit like a little teeny crack in the road, I'm like, oh, it's because the suspension's all jacked.
Because you have completely overloaded the motorcycle beyond its, yeah. So
then when everything comes off, it's like the suspension's like this, you got to put it back. Oh,
Ultras actually ride an inch higher from the factory to compensate for that. And still, if you put 60 pounds in the tour pack, another 30 on the lid, and then fill the bags and put a passenger on it.
Not that I'd recommend doing that. Or I've done it.
You are just riding on the stops, like you're riding a rigid, basically,
I got my money's worth out of my my Legend suspension, that's for sure. I had those things cranked hard. That's funny. So what are your plans to do with it? I mean, are you gonna keep sort of customizing it out? You're going to put a 22-inch wheel in the front, something crazy, or?
Yeah, no, a 38. No,
38. Damn.
No, no. I'm thinking what I want to do. I do want to put wheels on it because I want chrome wheels.
Okay.
I like chrome. I like black and chrome, and then certain other colors. But I like solid colors and chrome. I don't know, whatever.
Okay, that's old school. I get it.
Yeah, and so I do want to put a 21 on it. Anything beyond that, and you kind of lose some handling characteristics. There's a dude out there right now going, I have a 36 and my bike rides fine. No, it doesn't. It does not. Like you can tell yourself that all day long. It don't. Anyway, so I'd like to put a 21 on it, chrome, and then the chrome rear wheel. And then I'd probably change the fender to a wrap fender.
Oh, that would be nice.
Just because it kind of accentuates the 21. Sure. I'd like some kind of seat. I run my wife's stock CVO seat that came with the Road Glide because it sits low and back. Mm-hmm. I'd love to find a more comfortable low riding extended reach seat. I haven't found one yet that I'm crazy about. So I don't know. Someone needs to make one.
Is the CVO still a hammock seat or sort of a hammock seat?
Remember, my CVO Road Glide is not an Ultra. It's a really low
so it's
slam.
the low seat. Okay.
Yeah, it's the perfect riding position, and it is a good seat. The padding they use is good quality, but there's still just not much seat there. So basically, what I want doesn't exist. Okay. I want a comfortable low and extended reach seat, and I haven't found one yet. So
because I had the hammock, I got rid of that, and I got a Mustang touring seat, the Super Deluxe. That's a really comfortable seat.
It really is. It sits for me really high though.
Okay. I can see that. Yeah.
It's a touring seat. It is what it's supposed to be. It's a good seat. As a matter of fact, my wife runs a Super Tour Solo on the CVO.
Okay.
Which is the same seat as yours, just a one-piece solo seat. And it is very high and forward. So
that seat's funny because my wife sits on it and goes, this is terrible. It's too hard. I'm like, yeah, but give it a few hours. It'll be real comfortable.
It breaks in under you,
Well, that and the problem I had with the hammock was the, and I probably should have realized since it's called a hammock, you're floating, but you tour on that all day. I just felt like I was getting beat up with that constant, you're just doing this all day.
Bobbleheading down the highway. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not.
I hear that's a good seat. That's what George from Baggers and Brews runs, a hammock seat, I think. But again, it raises you an inch over even like an Ultra seat. Yeah.
I think it's a good seat as the term I would use would be like a bar bike. Like if you're going out, but you're not crushing big miles, it's comfortable. But I feel like once you're in the saddle all day, I didn't find it as comfortable.
Huh.
But it took me a while to figure that out because of that bouncing. It just felt like it wore me out. But again, that's me, and I'm a bigger guy, so I don't know.
If you're doing this all day, it's going to get old.
But I don't. But again, it's kind of like what works for you doesn't work for me. It's like windshields and bars, like, I don't know. I love the people that are like, what size bars are those? Yeah, but you're not me. You know, it's like
there is no right size bar. There really isn't. It really depends on you. It's kind of like bikes. There's no like, oh, the best bike is, or the old. Oh my God, you've heard this many times.
The internet would argue with you. There is the right bike.
Oh, perfect. It's whatever one that person rides. Right. So the old Batwing versus Shark Nose, Road Glide versus Street Glide like fight. And it's like, you realize that they're both great. They are different. One is not better than the other. Like I own both in my garage right now. There is both, and both have strong points. So one is not better than the other.
And we talked about saying like, what would you say is the weakness between the two? Because everyone talks about the strength.
The Road Glide's weakness is how far out the fairing is.
Okay.
It's way out there.
Mm-hmm.
So you actually can only control the stereo from the hand controls. That's not a big thing, but it's a thing. I mean, like you'd be really reaching to screw that screen. Number one. Number two, in severe weather, like we ride in all the time down here, the weather goes around the shark nose and then into your face. It really, for severe rain protection, it's really far in front of you. The shark nose cuts the wind way better. Like it's more aerodynamic. You can roll down the highway to 110 better on a shark nose than a Batwing because there's no influence on the forks. You know what I mean? Like you just scoot like a laser. But the Batwing is close to you. So severe weather, it by the time it goes around the fairing, it's behind you also. That's my experience.
That's also the best argument I've ever heard. Because seriously, I didn't. Yeah. Everyone talks about the pluses, but never the minuses. I'm sorry. And something else you said?
No. I was saying you can get small behind the Batwing. You can crouch down and get under that fairing way better than you can a shark nose. So I'm talking about this from a lot of rain riding because that's what we do down here a lot. But that's a lot of it. And
but it's a Harley. You should never be in the rain. It's a CVO.
Well,
I mean,
not if you ride in Florida. That's just life.
That's just life.
But also, I think that this is just cosmetics. I do think the Batwing is better looking.
Okay.
Than the Road Glide. That's just preference again. But almost everyone agrees that we talk about this that the dash is prettier on a Batwing. You know what I mean? Like the gauges are right front and center, and it's just it's sort of a nicer place to be than the look that you're seeing when you look at a Road Glide. So. That's just preference, but
yeah, because the thing that I don't like on the Ultra is that for me with a full face helmet, I can't see the GPS. I have to look down to see it.
And you have a Batwing, right? You have an Ultra.
I have an Ultra.
Yeah. So yeah, I can see that. Sure.
But it's one of those things, like you said, and I don't think the argument applies to anything in life, right? There's no right answer. It's what works for. Because I rode a Road Glide was the first touring Harley I ever rode. I took one out for a demo. I still remember the guy gives me the keys and goes, "Just come back with it." I'm like, I've never ridden anything this big, and I don't know where I am. He's like, it's
figure it out.
Like, no, it's not. I couldn't get the GPS to. I don't know what the technical term is, but where it's pointing the direction it's going. So while it was telling me how to get back, it was like sideways. So I'm like trying to like think it out. Like I'm just going to ruin this
going in circles out there. Like,
going to ruin this poor guy's bike. That's an interesting argument. I never would have thought about that because you would have the more protection. See, for me, I kind of felt like it was roomier. But again, it's been 2.5 years since I rode one. I may ride one and think it's crap now. So I don't, in my head, I like the idea.
And there are days, and again, this is like, what do you like today versus tomorrow? There are days where I ride my old CVO, and I go, man, I miss this bike. You know what I mean? Because it does ride low, and the suspension is stiff, and the bar. I have 14-inch Carlinis on it, which are closer in together, and because it feels more, I can't describe it. I don't know. Someone's going to make fun of this. You're sitting lower in the bike. You're riding slammed. It's just a more intense experience riding that bike. And then I get on my Geezer Glide that I call Johnny Cash. And then I go, yeah, but there's things about this I like more. So it's like, depends on your mood.
Yeah, I got 12s on mine, and I should have went higher because I made the mistake that I told myself I wouldn't do. I got the bars, got the suspension, then got the seat. I should have got the seat, then the bars, but because it's funny. The sales guy's like, "Oh, 14s are too big. You don't want 14s." I'm like, "Well, I wish I would have listened to me and not you, because it would have worked out a lot better."
I almost got 16s on the Ultra, and there are days where I'm like, "Man, the 16s would be cool because they're fun. It's a fun riding position. It feels good on your back for around town." But those days where we are running to Tampa and back or Orlando and back, and you're doing 500 miles up, 250 up, 250 back, 16s would probably wear on you more than a 14. So I guess what I got, I have 14-inch KSTs on the Ultra. And I think that's any more than that would be tiring, on a long distance.
I got you. Yeah. And that's, it's funny when I got my 12s, I felt like my arms were like above my head because it just felt so different. I was like riding it. I'm thinking, man, this is cool. Like, I got like what's the Latino style bike? A
Cholo bike?
Yeah, the Cholo bikes. That's what I felt like I had. Meanwhile, my arms are only here, but it felt so high versus stock.
I am so cool right now.
Yeah.
Like
soccer moms are looking at me. I'm like, yeah, that's right. All I needed was the spoked wheels and the fishtails in the back. And
I had a Cholo. I used to have a 95 Heritage Nostalgia, and it had, I can't remember the length. I had fishtails on it and stuck out the back of the bike about a foot. And it was an Evo, so it sounded so good. It was such a cool bike, but
because the fishtails make it louder, right?
It changes the tone. It makes it crack really loud. It's to me, it's a cool sound. I like it a lot. But these were also 1 3/4 fishtails. They were old school, tight, smaller. So it's just loud as hell.
Oh man, that had to be fun to ride.
Yeah.
So
it was slow as hell too.
So you mentioned about riding with your dad as a kid. So what was that first Sturgis experience like?
Oh my!
That had to be insane.
My father was a terrible father. That's what I always say. Like, even though he's my best pal, I look back and go, the things you did with me I can't believe you did that. Anyway, and I was 13 years old, and we borrowed a pop-up camper from his best pal. He was in the car business, so we took a pickup truck off the lot. Like, we didn't even own a truck. And we put his Sportster. So back in the late 80s, early 90s, my dad's not very tall. He's only 5'6". And he rode a Sportster because that was the best height, for him back then. Okay. And my dad's a speed demon. He's always been insane on a bike. He loves to do a whole shot, burnout, like fast as you can go. And back then, that was the fastest Harley was a Sportster by a lot, not even just a little bit. So he always bought Sportsters and did some engine work to them to make them insane. And that was what we rode long distance, was a Sportster with motor work.
Wow.
So we put the Sporty in the back of this pickup. We pulled the pop-up when we stayed at Glencoe. Glencoe, back then, things have changed. The Buffalo Chip was wild and Glencoe was more mild. We set up the pop-up camper. I'm setting up the tent also because we're going to put the bike inside a tent next to our camper. That's how obsessed Dad was trying to keep the dirt off of it. So I'm setting up the tent to get this ready, and Dad says, I'm going to run and grab some ice. So he goes up to get ice. I'm 13 years old, a group of 6 1%ers pulling next to us with 22-year-old supermodels on the back of their bikes. And I'm setting stuff up going, wow, this is cool. I'm setting stuff up. I look up, all their tops are off. Like, it's like the party has begun. No one is wearing clothes. Everyone's just partying hard. And I'm like, what? Your brain at 13 cannot process this. Like, so this is honest God, true story. My dad loves to tell the story. At that point, all the guys took their lawn chairs up to the main drag, and they all had cardboard signs that said, show us what you got, or, whatever. He comes back from getting ice, and his 13-year-old son sitting in a chair next to the guys with the cardboard sign. Like, and he just comes back and goes, what in Sam hell are you doing? And then a bike goes by with a topless chick on it. He goes, never mind, I'll be back in a second. Let me go put the ice in the cooler. And, and that was, bonding. And then later that trip, I don't know how rated R your program is, so I don't want to.
Let it go where it goes. So okay. I guess what we're saying, though, but the disclaimer should be we're not offering parental advice.
No, I would never do this if I had a 13-year-old son. Like, I would, So, but we went later that week to see the Doobie Brothers at the Buffalo Chip.
Oh, that had to be fantastic.
Oh, it was freaking amazing. You know, I grew up on acid rock and 60s rock. My dad's a Vietnam vet. That was what we
love
heard,
the Doobies.
You know?
Yeah.
CCR, Doobie Brothers, later ZZ Top, things like that. That kind of classic rock style. So we're at the Chip watching the Doobie Brothers. As my dad and all of his friends are around me in a circle to make sure that I'm safe, because fights were breaking out back then. Not anymore. It's safe and under control, but things were a little rough in the 80s or the 90s. And you can ride your bike up to the stage at the Buffalo Chip and watch the concert from sitting on your motorcycle. Only time on earth you're ever going to sit and watch a concert on your bike. And I could look over to the left and I could see in the crowd something going on. Something weird was happening to the left. There was just a crowd of spectators in a circle. And I can't figure it out. And I grabbed my dad's best buddy, Daryl, and said, "What's going on over there?" And Daryl very nonchalantly leans back, looks over and says, "Oh, that chick's going down on that chick over there on that motorcycle." And then goes back to watching the concert like nothing had happened. Like that was just normal every day. That was just a Monday morning for him. I didn't look at the stage again the rest of the night. I sat there and just stared in that direction and watched, you know, everything unfold, literally.
That's hysterical.
And I always tell Dad, I go, "You made me like this." My obsession with going to Sturgis and partying hard and riding all day and then going to the campgrounds and going to concerts and whatnot. I'm like, "You made this monster, so don't give me any trouble."
So I guess it's safe to say that it's changed a bit. I've never been, but from what I've seen, I've heard you talk about.
It's just under control more, and some of that's good, some of it's bad. Mm-hmm. The Chip is now a mega complex that does, I don't even know what kind of business. I mean, like it feels like there's a million people there. I don't know how many are actually there, but it feels like it's a city of its own. And I understand this. If you have that many people, much less bikers, in a confined space, drinking for 12 days, you've got to have security and rules. And they don't like having rules. They always say that. But there's these dudes that are South Dakota farm boys wearing cowboy hats and Buffalo Chip vests on four-wheelers. And they will appear out of nowhere. Yeah. And you don't want to fight. They're corn-fed. They're 9 feet tall. Like they're just giant dudes that will show up and handle anything that happens. So, but the flip side of that is they've cracked down on the nudity. They've cracked down on the crazy wildness that Sturgis was known for. Mm-hmm. And oddly enough, you can go to Glencoe across the street, and that's where there's no rules. Like I've never seen any security at Glencoe. Like they just, whatever you want to do, you can do.
So it's sort of just flipped at that point.
It has flipped over the years. Yeah.
That's interesting.
We stayed at Glencoe last year, and Jasmine Kane is one of my favorite musicians. She's a biker famous. She does all the rallies and stuff. She's great. Her husband, Kevin, said they were riding through the campground and saw a woman that was passed out on a lawn chair with her ankles tied to 2 trees so that the sun could hit her undercarriage just right. And tan, and Kevin said we stopped. Like we couldn't process what was happening. So we stopped to look for a minute. Like, is that what I think is happening right here? And Jasmine says, "Do you think she knows that she's doing this right now? Or is this intentional?" Or, you know, but yeah, no, Glencoe's wild.
That's, so it's the Easy Rider life.
It still is there. Yeah, it still very much crazy. Is. There's a main drag in Glencoe. I don't know what words I can say and not say. That's the alley. Okay, it's Titty Alley is what it's called. And that's what it is every night, all night during the rally. You just sit there and watch people go up and down.
And you would almost think in this day and age that doesn't exist, because that's the quintessential biker, what people would think of Sturgis.
And that's still very much alive there, the alley at Glencoe. And even though we're staying at the Chip for concerts and for a million reasons, we just really like the Chip. We will still go to Glencoe and buy an 8-hour. Glencoe's the only place at Sturgis that does an 8-hour pass. You don't have to buy the whole rally.
Okay. And
for like $25, you give them your driver's license and your credit card, and you better pick it up within 8 hours. And if you don't, then they charge you for the whole rally, But
okay.
So you can show up at, say, 7 p.m., check in, and then you've got an 8-hour pass to party, and then you better get out and get your stuff and get out of there. So they know you're not staying there. But yeah, we'll do that at least once, if not twice, during the rally, just to go to the alley and hang out and make friends and
Mm-hmm.
say hi to people.
Sure. And I think it was you that was saying this, and if it wasn't, I'll just quote you anyway. We'll make it up.
Yeah.
That social media sort of ruined that. I would think that experience has
Yeah.
to, now that with social media,
well, we all know it's a devil and a help at the same time. The freaking cell phone camera, in my opinion, has destroyed a big part of this culture. You used to go to rallies and just anything goes. You could and I'm not just talking about various levels of clothing. I'm just talking in general. But everywhere you go and what you do at these sort of events, you got to worry about somebody videoing you and taking photos of you and then uploading it and sharing it on websites. And then,
the monkey exposed.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm not so worried about myself because who the hell can take a picture of this guy? But if you're a woman who has always liked to let loose that 1 week out of the year, you can do whatever you want to do. And you work really hard and you have a family and all this other stuff. But for that 1 week, you can do whatever you want to do. They do that. Someone takes a picture of them or video of them. It goes on a website. Their boss sees it somehow. And then now it's destroyed your life. And it's just like, there's a thing in Alzada, Montana called Topless Tuesday. It's been around forever, where the bartenders go topless for 1 day a year. And it's people come from 3 states away to go to this. And it's a blast. But when you go, the tragedy is they have a stage set up and an enclosure and outside beer tubs, and the women working the beer tubs are not wearing clothing. And it's just a good old biker party. But you cannot look anywhere without seeing 17 cell phone camera screens where everyone's documenting, photographing, and videoing everything. And it's even the people that are doing it, I think, would be okay with them saying, that's it, enough.
Yeah.
No more pictures, no more video, because it's ruining this. Like, leave your phone and your bike. Don't take pictures, don't take video. And I think that 99.9% of the people that go to that event will be fine with that. Just enjoy, because you enjoy yourself more when you're not worrying about whether you got the picture, got the video, or how close. Just sit there and watch and don't worry about it.
Well, and that's, I was talking about this the other day with someone that I feel like you said, that's the good and bad, right? Like everybody wants to document everything they do or every ride they do. And I feel like that takes away from the experience, right? Because just because I can't send you a picture didn't mean it didn't happen.
Right.
And everybody's worried about, I have to capture every ride and have 8 GoPros. And I'm like, yeah, but sometimes that's fun. But other times, I know I'm going to get the haters and say I shouldn't do this, but I want to throw my half lid on and just roll, and just.
I don't film any of my rides.
I think that's the way to do it.
I film very, very, very few rides unless I have something
social
to talk
media,
about
though.
while
You're
I'm
not
riding.
a rider because we can see it.
Right. But it's my thoughts are, my rides are for me. That's my untie my knots, decompress, fix things in my head kind of thing. And if I have to put a camera and a microphone and then think about what I'm going to say, it ruins the entire experience. Also, the organization we ride with, we can't video anything, and that's about 80% of our riding. So it's just the way it is. Like, there are good riding channels out there. You should go watch them. That's the way I always say. Like, that's not what this is.
No, and I think that's fair. But I think it's funny because you hear the argument of, but we don't see X ride, so they really don't ride. It's like, does it matter? You know what I mean? Like, to me, I didn't buy the motorcycle to prove anything. I didn't buy it so I can show you, look, I did X or Z. Yeah, like you said, it's cool to watch an Adam Sandoval or people that travel and do this amazing work, but I'll watch theirs. You know what I mean? Like, there's times where it's fun, but
I also have a super intense job and a child. So do you want to watch me raise my daughter and work hard too? I mean, we all have things we have to do besides these YouTube channels if it's not your job. If it is your job, more power to you. I like those channels also. But this year at Sturgis, we're going to do some ride videos, but it's because I bought a clamp. I'm going to put the camera on the handlebar and plug it in, and I'll run a mic into my helmet on certain parts where let's say we'll do needles, one way, and I'll record it and I'll talk through it a little bit. A lot of it's just going to be motor sound and whatnot. And then on the way back, though, the camera's going to be put away because that's for me, the ride back. But people that are obsessed, I'm like, if you want to see my odometers, I'll show them to you, but you're freaking weird. Like, that's really weird. Like, there are 3 bikes in the garage right now. They have 26,000 miles on them between the 3 of them. And most of that is the 19. So do I meet your approval? It's kind of like, is that really what you want? You want to see my odometer? That's fine, but my middle finger comes up real fast when that conversation comes up.
No, so and that's, you hear that argument a lot, and I guess I've heard it more lately. We kind of touched on that before this, that there's some sort of machismo, whatever you want to call it, that it's this us against them sort of mentality, right? It's, if you're a YouTuber, you're not a real biker. If you're a biker, you're not a YouTuber, like whatever. It's just, I don't know. I just started this on a whim because I thought it was fun and I wanted to learn. And like you said, am I doing a whip mesa? Am I, doing all the states in 10 days?
Oh, 48 and 10 or whatever. Yeah. She's badass. Yeah.
Have
I lift those people up, man. That's badass that you did that. But I have a little kid. What am I going to do? Just abandon my child and go off and do that? Like,
that's what I'm saying. I have my kid every other weekend. I ride when I ride. You know what I mean? Yeah. But to your point, that was my decompression time. That was the time where, you're just kind of in the wind.
Yeah.
It is that exhausting your ears can clear out your issues quick.
Yeah. My rides are for me and for that organization, and I can't film that. So there you go.
There you go.
But there'll be a lot of ride videos during Sturgis, but that's because I feel like I wouldn't be, I don't want to say doing my job, but for the fans of the channel and the viewers of the channel, people I talk to, for those that can't go, I feel like I do owe them that. Like, I owe them, when I say Iron Mountain Road's an amazing ride, I feel like I want to share that with them. I want them to see it. So I will definitely record that at least once, but not every day. We'll put on probably, depending on the year, the weather, between 1,200 and 2,000 miles while we're up there. And that's, you got to think about it. Speed limit is 35 mile an hour most places.
Yeah.
It's not, a buddy of mine just did the Tail of the Dragon from here. He rode from here, did the tail, and rode back. He was gone for 10 days. He only did 2,100 miles.
Mm-hmm.
And that was including the travel to the Carolinas and back. We go up there and we put on 1,200 to 2,000 just doing rides up there, which to me, it's like, I'd rather do that than just freaking on the highway doing 80, staring at the horizon for 17 hours. That's just my preference, but what do I know? I've only been doing this a long time.
There are those days where it's good to kind of to crank it out and throw down some miles, just sometimes to clear your head. But I mean, there's a really nice therapy at 80 miles an hour, on a good day.
Really is.
You're just, there's no traffic. That was the great thing about the pandemic, going down to the shore and there's nobody there and you're just rolling through the pine barrens. It was great.
Yeah. That would be cool. The funny thing is we rode more than ever before the pandemic because of the organization. So the average member rides between 10, 12, 15, even up to 20,000 miles a year. And 80 to 90% of that is business of the organization. Mm-hmm. And so that's most of your riding is that. Then the pandemic hit and our business stopped. So we serve kids that have been abused, and our cases are referred from DCF, courts, counselors, therapists, all that sort of stuff. As soon as the pandemic hit, no one was going to have a bunch of bikers come around a child.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So referrals stopped. So our work stopped. And the weird thing is we were so conditioned to spend all of our time doing those rides and those events and that work that we didn't know what to do anymore. So like there were so many days where several of the brothers and sisters would go, we should just go on a ride. And we're all like, how do you do that? None of us remembered what it was like to just go for a ride. And so we would ride around Lake Okeechobee. That's the thing you do here in Southern Florida. It's a nice, decent ride around the lake. So we'd pack a cooler because nothing was open and you couldn't go in and, you'd pack a cooler, fill your tank, and we'd go in a circle around the lake. But our riding just dropped by 2/3, which is the exact opposite for a lot of people. It was really weird.
Well, it was weird here because you couldn't, like you said, nowhere was open.
Mm-hmm.
So you go ride and you're like, okay, but we're just literally never getting off the bike. We'll be lucky
you
if we
couldn't even get
gas.
gas.
Yeah.
There were a lot of gas stations that weren't even open. So you had to plan, There was one ride we went on, me and the wife and a really good friend who's a senior boss in our organization. We went for a ride and we hadn't prepared and we had nothing to drink, no food, almost ran out of gas. Like, it was miserable, but we laughed the whole time. Like, next time we'll know you need a cooler and whatnot. But
there better not be a next time. Not no more pandemic.
Yeah, no. We're getting back to normal. Yeah, we're trying to down here anyway.
So looping back, and I forgot to mention what we were talking about. You're doing 2 meetups at Sturgis?
Yeah. My wife arrives because of our daughter. She has to fly in a few days and fly back. She is a saint. She allows me to have the full Sturgis experience and go. Like, it's not allows. She wants me to do this. She knows it unties my knots and it's my thing. She is flying in on the 3rd. I arrive on the 2nd. She flies in on the 3rd and then has to head back out on the 8th. So she's only there for 5 days.
Okay. So
on the 5th, which is before the rally starts, but that's when she's there and can do this. On the 5th, she and I are going to go to the big engine bar at the Buffalo Chip, which is outside the gates. So anyone can go. And at 6 p.m., we're just going to hang out and have beers with anyone who wants to show up. And I did a poll on YouTube just for shits and giggles. And 75 people said they were going to come on the 5th. And then we're going to do another one on the 11th at the Beaver Bar. And the Beaver Bar is the giant white tent on the main drag next to Glencoe, but also by the Chip. The reason we chose that area again was because the night of the 11th, when we're doing this, is the night of ZZ Top. So we feel like most people are going to be in that area that night. But at 6 p.m. at the Beaver Bar, we have more than 110 people that say they're going to come to that. That's from a poll. So I would imagine the number is a lot bigger than that because people aren't going onto YouTube and voting on polls, but we'll see. We're just going to have a bunch of beer and have a good time. But we'll also be on the 6th. It's not our event, so I haven't been talking about it. The World Record Poker Run, which I'm sure you've heard about. The Badgers are running that. That ends at the Buffalo Chip on the 6th, and they're having an arrival party from 4 to 8 at the Chip. I'm not sure of the exact. I'm probably the big engine bar, but I'm not exactly sure. But we'll definitely be at that too to congratulate them. But that's not our event, so that's why I haven't been talking about it. That's
I got thing,
you. But we're going to be there because I want to shake Sonny and Mrs. Badger's hand, and they're bringing their 21-year-old daughter. Their 21-year-old daughter has been riding for a while. She's got miles under her belt, but she's doing the World Record Poker Run. She's 21 years old.
That's really cool.
That's cool. I mean, on a V-Rod. So
there you go.
That's cool.
Goes to prove, right? You don't have to have a touring bike. You can, if you want it bad enough, you can do it.
Well, she's also a lot younger and skinnier than you and I. So,
that's probably true. Okay.
A kid that age can tour on a Sportster.
Yeah, that's true. I always think that argument's funny, especially with the younger kids. It's like, oh, but I don't have a touring bike. Yeah, but I had a scooter and I rode further than that.
Yeah, that comfort requirement thing increases as you get older and more rotund. I need more comfort.
I think it's funny when the bike is the limitation. It's like, I think there's more limitations than the bike here. You're just. Yeah. I think that's funny. It's always the argument. Oh, you need an M8 or you need this, you need that if you're going to do X. And you're like, I don't know. If you want it bad enough, you can do it on anything.
We did a lot of distance on my dad's Sportster when I was a kid. So
that's got.
But cool. He's a hard ass. So it was. I look back and go, I don't know how he did it because he was my age then. You know what I mean? And with a passenger, and we did several 100-mile days, 200-300 mile days regularly, just getting up and gone all day, all over the state of Missouri, into the northern Arkansas, and all the way back to St. Louis. We would do on a Sunday.
That's awesome.
So that's no saddlebags. My sissy bar was that tall. You know what I mean? Stuck. That was it. That was that, and we rode all day on that. So
before aftermarket was a big thing.
I remember you used to go to the Harley shop. I wish we could. I wish there was videos of what it was like back then. You can't find that sort of stuff out there. Because I can remember going to the Harley shop, which in the 80s was a cinder block building in Kirkwood, Missouri. It was called Doc's Harley. That was our dealer. Now Doc's is a massive brick resort, sort of dealership like they all are. But Doc's used to be a cinder block building with a showroom floor big enough for 4 bikes. and there was a parts counter, and there was a manager's office. And that's where the financing was done. Like, and the parts were vacuum sealed onto cardboard. So your chrome battery cover was just like plastic vacuum sealed, heat sealed, or whatever you want to call it, onto a piece of cardboard. The cardboard was white with orange letters, and it would say genuine Harley-Davidson and then a part number. No description, no nothing. So you'd go to the counter. Dad would have ordered things for the bike. They would accidentally, because there was no inventory control, they'd end up on the floor. And you'd go in and Dad would say, yeah, that came in. And they would give him the numbers. And then he and I would go through all the parts.
Oh, that's
looking
cool.
For the one that had the number on it. Like, I found the battery cover. I found this emblem. I found, and then you would buy it, take it home. And then he'd make me put it on because he wanted me to learn how to do this stuff. But that's what a Harley shop was like in the early mid 80s, and then now they're Hiltons, the waterfalls and shit inside them.
Yeah, our local dealership got bought out, and they went with the whole kind of Sturgis bikini girl experience. Like, it did a complete 180. It's interesting to see how ownership takes a different approach and how the salespeople are different, and it's more aggressive, if that makes sense. It's not.
It is. I don't look forward to the day that there's a dude down here named Corky that's at Alligator Alley Harley, which is in Sunrise, Florida. It's been owned by several owners, but Corky's been there, I don't know, since 1912. I don't know what year he started, but he's been there a long time. And he still sells bikes like an old Harley salesman. And I bought the Ultra from him, and I'm already going, man, the day he retires, I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I might start buying bikes used from individuals at that point, because I myself am in sort of a sales and marketing kind of role. And I like just total transparency. We're going to get this done. You're going to make your commission. We're going to work this out, but please don't dance with me. I don't want to do that. I don't want to play that game. And a lot of the salespeople besides him are 12 and, and they've been reading out of a book on how to be shady. And I'm like, no, like, let's just get this done.
My new thing is, like, open up your wallet. I want to see your MC license. Let's just start the conversation there, because I'm really not convinced you even know what you're selling at this point.
That's really true. Yeah. I mean, yeah, there are some salespeople out there that don't ride a bike, never have in their life.
I had a younger sales girl try and sell me a brand new Ultra when I was looking at a $12,000 Ultra, and was convinced that if I had the credit, it would be the same amount. Because if I had really good credit, it would be cheaper in the interest rate. I'm like, but the bike's 3 times the price. I'm not sure we're doing the math here.
I'm not sure that she's financed anything before.
Yeah. So the joke was, ever since when the one sales guy knew, every time I'd walk in and be like, hey, Bry, let's run your credit while you're here. Let's just run your credit. We
just while you're here. What the hell? You never know.
You never know. We could probably get
I might be able to sell you a CVO Ultra and save you some money.
So, and I think it's interesting to talk to you, talking to Saddle Tramp, people that have been around that. I didn't grow up in the lifestyle. I didn't ride till I was 40. So it's still, it's 10 years into it for me. But I think it's really good, like you said, to have those generational stories of like what it was like. You know what I mean? Because I used to go, when I had my Suzuki, I went to a mom and pop, and the place was called Bromley's, and everyone's last name was Bromley. So the mechanic was Bromley, the sales guy was Bromley, and they would call you up and just be like, yeah, we found a problem with your bike. What's it going to cost me? Nothing, don't worry about it. Or,
we'll figure it out.
It was just a different experience, It wasn't going into like a Walt Disneyland where there's a water slide and,
Yeah. I mean, today is, those days are gone, and it's kind of sad. But at the same time, you could order a part back then, and you had no freaking clue when it was going to come in, if it was ever going to come in. And then when it came in, they'd lose it. And then you had to wait for someone to call you to tell you it's in. They might call you a month and a half after it's already arrived. I mean, things are better, but as far in that sense. But at the same time, there was no personal relationship. And that's, I remember my dad wrecked his bike on the Polar Bear run one year. He hit black ice and shot his Sportster off a cliff. Like, woo! I did a video about it. It was like a 30-foot embankment he shot off. When he hit the ground, he used to ride in cowboy boots. The pegs on his bike ripped the heels off his cowboy boots because of the impact,
Okay.
and he broke both of his hands and didn't break any other bones but his hands, but he bruised every organ in his body, and he had to climb up the hill to get rescued and stuff. They craned his bike out. But anyway, the difference is back then it was like a 2-year waiting list to replace the bike. Mm-hmm. So what Harley used to do is they would snap off the steering, the neck of the frame, and issue you a new frame with the same VIN number. So the bike wasn't totaled. They would send a brand new frame from the factory with your VIN number re-etched on it. And then they would trash the old one. And then the dealer was to ship back the snipped off steering neck. And that's how they would keep the inventory straight. So the bike was never wrecked. It was a brand new bike again with the same VIN number. That's how they used to do it.
That's crazy.
As a matter of fact, though, because they were friends with Ralph, who owned Docks, they never sent his steering neck back, and that's on a shelf in my garage. I have the steering neck that was snapped off of his motor.
That's crazy.
No one could do that today. There's laws and rules and whatnot. Anyway, when they were rebuilding his bike, Ralph would call Dad like every week and go, "Hey, the engine casing's scratched." Like, yeah, the insurance wants me to buy new engine casings, or I can send them out and have them chromed. And it costs less than buying a new one. So then we can keep that cash and put it in some engine upgrades. And he'd be like, yeah. So, and then he'd go, hey, the carburetor screwed up. I can put an S&S on it. You don't care, right? Like, we can do that instead of the factory. Yeah. So this went on. By the time we got that bike back, it was ready for a show. Like, the motor was chrome front to back, which was not a thing in the 80s. Mm-hmm. It had an 883 rear. I think it was the rear sprocket you would change out to make it faster on a 1200, but an 83 sprocket. It had an HEI ignition. It had an S&S carb. It had all this engine work done to it, pistons, everything was done to it. On the way home from the dealer, Dad, being a speed demon, topped out first and slammed second hard and snapped the drive belt, because they were crappier back then. They're much stronger today. And then he took it back to the dealer, and my dad's like, "What did you do to my bike?" He goes, "I made it fast." Just like that was like, you like to go fast. I made it fast. It's real fast now. Isn't it fast? And Dad's like, but it breaks the belt. He goes, well, don't open the throttle up all the way. I don't know what to tell you. Like, and he goes, well, how do we make it to where it doesn't snap the belt? And he goes, put a chain on it. And he goes, I don't want a chain. I got to drive. He goes, well, then don't. And that was it. Like, Dad just had to know that he couldn't go fast anymore because he'd break the belt.
Can you imagine that in this day and age?
No one's going to do that. Like, everyone's going to go, the EPA came in and audited your motorcycle, you're going to jail. Like, it was just like some weird shit like that, But
so what do you think? Because I remember during the whole .com boom, because I work in computers, that's really, to me, what I remember Harley changing. Like you said, there was like 2-year wait periods, and it was crazy.
Yeah, it was the early mid 90s that it was a 2-year wait for anything.
Yeah.
Because I remember Dad had a black one on order, a black 5-speed belt drive Sportster 1200. When they went from 4-speed chain to a 5-speed belt. And he ordered a black one, and he had like black bikes. Well, he called him and said, you're still another year out for your bike, but we had a guy order I remember the color was ruby red. A ruby red 5-speed belt drive 1200 Sportster, and then he couldn't get his credit approved. So you used to put a deposit and then get the loan because they didn't know when it was going to come in. And the guy couldn't get the loan. And so Ralph called him and said, if you'll take red, you can have your new one today. Can you imagine?
Yeah.
Can you imagine, like, you're on a 2-year waiting list, you're a year in, and they call and say, if you'll take red, you can have it today. And
that's like
my old man was like, he's like, we're getting a red bike. That was it. He hung up and it was fine. It's red. And we went up and picked up the new one. And for about 24 hours, we had two, because he still had his old black 4-speed chain drive. He put it in the newspaper, and it was sold that afternoon. Asking price. Like, a guy called and said, is it sold yet? No, I'm on my way with $100 bills. Don't sell it. It's sold. And Dad was just like, the first one that shows up with a stack of hundreds, it's sold.
It's sold.
Like, that's it. And the guy drove 300 mile an hour to get to our house with a stack of hundreds and like threw it at him. He was like, there you go. And that was what it was like to sell a Harley. And this was an 80, the bike was an 86, I think. And this would have been 1990, I believe. When he
I almost feel like that's what they're going for again, because I know with our dealership, well, the dealership I get my bike serviced at, there's no touring bikes in stock.
Yeah, there's none of mine either. None.
It's crazy.
And it from a business perspective, it makes sense. Someone's going to kill me. It makes sense to close dealers, reduce inventory, and drive the prices back up like it was when Harley could print money. You know, like it was so valuable. But they became this mega machine in the early 2000s, late, you know. So it'll be interesting to see. I mean, I think this new Sportster is awesome. I think they're going to sell a shit ton of them to young guys.
I'll go one further. I like the dealer relationship, but I'd love to see if they did the Tesla thing. Let me order my bike online. It just
that totally custom bikes,
because they had that sort of thing for a while. They had the bike builder, and I thought that was cool because there's that part.
I remember that you could even put the air cleaner on it, and I
used to send my wife screenshots every day.
Me too.
She was probably so glad that thing's done, because I'd be like, and look, and she's like, what is this? It doesn't matter what it is. I don't even know what it costs.
It's
look how
awesome.
cool it is. It's like Hot Wheels. Yeah, I feel like that's because let's face it, right? You can make the argument that you buy it and the first thing you do is toss the windshield and you toss the bars and you toss this and that. But there's that part of me. It's like, wouldn't it be really cool? And it would never happen. But could Harley partner with an advanblack? Could they partner with a Legends Factory 47?
Wow, yeah.
You know, and let me get the bike I want. You know what I mean?
It would never happen, but God, that'd be cool.
Can you imagine?
How about this one? I want a 2-into-1 turnout pipe, so I don't want my bags to have cutouts.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff. That would be really cool. Yeah. Yeah.
Or I want to leave with, 16-inch bars that are, different than the small amount that Harley makes, which I think is funny because they want to sell you T-shirts, but they don't have a bar selection. They do, but it's not this like really great selection.
Yeah. Yeah. They push it aftermarket. I mean, it's I don't know. It used to buy nothing but Harley parts. And I remember the posters. I've said this a million times in the video because it's so vivid in my mind. These giant posters that used to say, "Don't butcher your hog with foreign parts."
Yeah, because it was American. It was
everything was American. The accessories were American. Yeah. The T-shirts were American. Everything was made in America. And now nothing is made. Like most of your motorcycle is made overseas. It's assembled here.
Yeah.
But I had this conversation with advanblack when I was there. They're too nice to say this crap. But I said, so, yes, they're molded in China and they're painted there and they go through Hong Kong and they're shipped here. And then now what he's trying to do is house most of the product here and then, have a staff that ships and, blah, blah, blah. He's like, but I make it there and I ship it here. But I'm like, well, the OEM bags, where are they made? He goes, in a factory 20 minutes away from mine are.
Mm-hmm.
Like 20 minutes up the road, the factory bags are made and painted.
Getting missed from their paint shop.
Yeah, and then shipped over. But for some reason, we as bikers are like, I won't buy that. It's made in China. I'm like, your factory stuff is. Who cares anymore? Like, I mean, I care. Don't get me wrong. But it's like the reality is this. Certain parts are going to be made someplace else. That's just the way that is.
Well, yeah, and two, it's hard to make the argument when it's a classic example because I have the Razor Pack. It's hard to make the argument when the quality's there. Why I'm going to spend 500 hours more?
500? Who are you kidding?
I
mean, I have a good friend of mine who's building a custom stereo bag, like a competition bike that he's going to ride, and tens of thousands of dollars in audio. And his rear end, the fenders and bags were like custom molded for him and all this stuff.
Well, now he needs the new top with the speakers.
He does. He's got them. This thing is sweet. A monster. It is a monster. It's a 6-figure bike when he's done with it. And the difference is going to be he's going to ride it. Like he goes, I made it to where the air ride will raise it so high that I can ride it.
Oh, see that.
Also, most of those like stereo bikes have a stock engine. The motor's not been messed with. His is bored out 130 something giant cam. Like it's everything in one. Like it's performance. It's also stereo. It's, but anyway, and he's like, I want you to ride it. I'm like, I ain't riding that thing. You're not going to put me on $150,000 bike. I will wreck it. Like just because like 180 horsepower bagger with a, I'm like, no way you're going to get me to ride that thing. But anyway, if you want that custom rear end, you can either pay $6,000 before it's painted, right? Or you can use one of these manufacturers that makes good stuff that we all know and like, but you don't get to talk smack about it. Go write the big check then.
Well, yeah, and to your point too, it's if the quality's there. I was saying just the $500 difference in the tour pack, let alone if you start adding in, ridiculous amounts of stuff. It's insane. And like you said, there's it's really funny.
It's nutty.
Right down the street.
It's just nutty. It's all made in the same area. What's the big deal?
Yeah. It's the old design. It's the Apple thing. It's designed in California. It's made, in some third world country where people are jumping out the windows, but it's designed in California. It's totally cool.
My thing was the paint. Like when I first, started ordering the body parts, I was like, man, is it going to look as good as I want it to? I used to be an estimator at a body shop many, many years ago. So I'm obsessed about orange peel, about having good finish. And when it showed up and I opened it, I was like, that's so good. Like it's just glass. My saddlebags are perfect.
Did they frisk you when you left?
They should have. One of the things in the video today, I accidentally actually stole something. Like I'm in their showroom and I'm talking to the peeps and as a joke, there's a shelf with those stainless steel bag guards and I snatched them. I actually left with them. And I got back to my hotel and I was like, oh no, because that was their display. Like it was on the shelf. So I immediately got on the line with them and I'm texting with the boss there, who's I love that dude to death. And I go, I actually took those things. I'm so sorry. I will bring them to you tomorrow morning. He goes, keep them. I don't care. Whatever. It's fine. I know you didn't mean to. It's fine. Then I get home today. Dude, they don't fit my bags. They're the wrong ones for my bags. So I've got them and they don't fit. I'm like, so I stole these things and they're for the CDO style bag, not the super stretch bag like I have. So it's not the same shape. And I have these things that don't even fit. So I suck as a thief is the moral of that story.
You look like the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory. Like you were going to start just grabbing stuff.
Oh, I'm walking through going, I don't have a custom stereo, but I'll take them giant bag lids and the giant tour pack lid. And
no, that we couldn't fix.
I'll need them someday, because they make all that stuff. They make the tour pack lid that has like subwoofer openings and stuff.
I saw that. I was like, I don't need that, but that wouldn't stop me from buying it.
I don't need it, but I want it,
Blasting some Neil Diamond while I'm rocking down the road. Well, sir, I really appreciate it. So you're going to be at Sturgis, so anyone that's there gets a chance to meet. And I'll put a link to all your socials. Now, you're not super active besides YouTube, right? You're not on the TikTok or anything?
No, I
feel like you could be a good TikToker.
Yeah, okay. I'm not. Yeah, I'm just gonna leave that alone. I have an Instagram, but all I use it is to communicate about stuff about the videos because I suck at that. My wife's like really good at the Instagram. She's 4 years younger than me. May as well be 25. Like we are a different generation in 4 years. So she's like really good at the like cell phone photography stuff. So I keep telling her, I'm like, would you please just install the Pro Monkey Instagram account on your phone and go to town?
Yeah, handle the social.
Nope, not going to do it. She won't do it.
Oh, man.
I'm like,
so you're not at the level where you're outsourcing yet.
No, that day, I can totally understand dudes to do it though. I used to go like, do you need all that? And you're like, yeah, you do. At a certain point where you're like, I can't keep up with the comments and the emails and the whatnot. So I have an Instagram account that's Pro Monkey Rider. I have a Facebook page, which is fun. That's pretty active. That's Pro Monkey. Then that's like people comment and we talk. I set it up as a business page just for fun and whatnot. So yeah, no, we have a good time on that, but
it's interesting too how Facebook is so different than Instagram versus YouTube. Like they're unique. I feel like Facebook's got a lot of pent up hostility.
It does.
It's crazy.
Now my group's been pretty cool about just communicating. Like hey, we're doing this at this thing. What do you think of that? And people comment and they're like, you should do a video on this. I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll do that. That's cool. You know, like it's been really fun. But I feel like just around the corner, it's going to go nuts because it's only about, it's only as old as the channel, which is 5 months. So,
I mean, I think it's, like I said before, we're off camera. I think it's great what you're doing for the community and bringing people together, because that's not something that, without going into it, it's, there's a lot of,
I don't like conflict.
Yeah. Let's
and
just
it's not necessary. We should all hold hands and sing Kumbaya and have a good time. I don't understand the conflict, man.
We're all at different places in our lives. Let's just,
let's just have fun.
There's
so much fun that could be had.
Yep. We don't need to fight about it. That's
no.
I think it's one
and
of
if you're
those
around bikers enough, there's a line you cross, and not to sound preachy or whatever, but there is a line you cross where when you've done decades in the saddle and you look around the room and the brothers and sisters that you work with and whatever club or organization you're in, and you realize how different they are than you. And were it not for this community, you would probably never see eye to eye and raise a glass together. But you're connected somehow through this community. And so my friends in my real life look nothing like me. I don't look like them. We're incredibly different backgrounds, but yet we go to bat for each other all day, every day. And that's the way this is supposed to be.
Yeah.
We're supposed to be different and yet on each other's side. We're supposed to have each other's back. That's what bikers do. And I think that if you don't get that, you're missing something. You don't get it.
Yeah. I mean, to me, we as a community, we only grow by lifting each other up. We don't.
Absolutely.
You don't grow by standing on the back of someone and pushing them backwards.
Yeah. Yeah. That's not how it works.
That's right. That's the positive message. Thanks for coming to church.
Don't make the plates going by. Make sure
make sure you pick up your monkey merchandise on the way out.
Right. Oh yeah. 2 shirts, the price of one today.
Sunday. Well, I really appreciate it. I do have to close this out by, I'm very good friends with the gorilla biker, and I'm going to have to tell him he's got to step his game up because he's not the professional gorilla biker. So maybe he could be your apprentice. Maybe he could work at it.
Right.
Stay in school, work hard, take your vitamins. You too could be a professional.
You could be a professional someday. Just go down an alleyway in Mexico, and there you go.
There you go. Right? It's what is it? The greatest ideas come from the craziest. I don't know. I was going somewhere with that.
Something along that. I'm with you. I'm totally with you, though.
All right. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And make sure you check out Professional Monkey online on YouTube. Thanks again.
Thanks a bunch.